All right, so I want to share with you guys some basic tips for a bike fit. If you're just getting involved in the sport of cycling or triathlon, most likely you've already gone out and bought your bicycle. Sometimes the bike shop will fit you on that initially, but if you have not been fit, I encourage you to go get a professional bike fit that will dial you into a position that works best for you. So it's a simple process. This is just a starting point to go from. The first thing I want to talk about is cleats and pedals. I prefer the Speedplay setup because of the ability to have float. So if you have a float on your pedal, you'll naturally find that rhythm and that stroke that works for you. The first thing you want to do is when you put your cleats on your shoes, you want to make sure both shoes have a cleat set up in the exact same position. Easiest way to do a cleat position is find the ball of your foot. If you have your big toe and your pinky toe, you can feel the ball of your foot where that center is. See where that line is. And if you look at that line, it should line up with the center part of your cleat. You want your power to come from the center of your ball of your foot to transfer to your cleat, which allows to the most efficiency and power transfer. So then the next thing we want to do is set up your saddle. I would encourage all you guys to set up your saddle in a level position. You don't want your nose up or you don't want your nose down. You don't want gravity to force you back or gravity to force you forward. If gravity is forcing you forward, even if you're in the TT position, you're going to use energy to keep scooting back. So once you have your saddle level, you want to look at how am I going to establish my saddle height. Some of the simple process that you can do is a little bit cheating, but if a quick fix is you reach down with your arm and your finger is going to be right in the center of the bottom bracket. Your arm length is usually pretty close to your leg length, and so you could sit right here and you can see right now that's pretty darn close. So let's test it while I'm seating on it. So you want to get on your bike, hop on your bike. What you want to do is you want to put your heel on your pedal and put the pedal at the bottom of the stroke. You don't want to rock your hips to get down there. You want to keep your hips square. You don't want to move your hips, and you want your heel to barely touch that cleat. All right, and with that, when you're clipped in and you're down and your foot is in a position of how it would be when you're doing a pedal stroke, you should see that your knee angle should be roughly at 30 or so as far as degrees. The next thing that we're going to want to do is find your setback, where you want your saddle set fore and aft. In the sport of triathlon, a lot of people like to have their saddle farther forward, their saddle in front of their bottom bracket. So if you're looking straight down, horizontal from the ground, your bike is parallel to the ground, level, horizontal directly above your bottom bracket, straight up. Some people prefer to have your saddle nose in front of that. I'm an old school, I guess you call it old school, but it works really well. I find you still manage a lot of power if you're in this position, a lot of power by not being in front of the bottom bracket. You still save a lot of muscle for the run. Some people say if your saddle is farther forward, you're recruiting some run muscles to have a better transition. My thought is, why would you want to use too much of your run muscles while you're biking? Save those muscles for when you get off and run. So this is a simple setup. So you get a string and some washers, tie some washers to the end, so find a little plumb bob. This is going to be pretty close to finding your fore and aft. School of thought is you run it off of, you run your crank arm parallel to the ground. So you find that position on your bike where your foot is in a position of what it would be like when you're on the downstroke of your pedal. Run the line right off the tip of your kneecap here, and the tip of your kneecap going down, you should find that at the bottom it's going to be right at the end of your crank arm, and that's going to be pretty darn close to where you're going to want to be. All right, another way to do this process, so you drop the plumb line off of the tip of the saddle, allow it to clearly drop freely, and you'll see the setback at the bottom is about a 3 centimeter setback from the center of the bottom bracket. Some schools of thought, some people will say 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters, or right over the bottom bracket or even in front of the bottom bracket. I encourage you as you get started, start from here. You'll find some comfort, you'll get a rhythm, you'll get some fitness, and as you increase your fitness, then you can go and get a professional bike fit which will dial you in for what works best for you and your style of riding. Next thing is gonna be your aero bar setup or road bar setup. In this case, we're gonna talk about your time trial bike. So if you have a time trial bike, you wanna be in a position that's comfortable. You don't wanna be, I've seen people really reached out, right? Sitting back and really reached out. If you look at this position, you can tell that there's a little bit of a strain. So you don't want to be in a position like this. You want to be able to be in a position that gets you right over the bottom bracket or a few centimeters behind the bottom bracket. You want your arms to be close to a 90 or a little bit more open than a 90-degree angle. You don't want it in front of you because then you're going to have too much weight. You don't want it to be too far in front because then you're going to be reaching too much and stretching all this here and recruiting more core to keep balance. You want it to be comfortable where you can sit in a position, easy hands in the front. Don't want to grip too hard, nice and relaxed. So in this position, you should be able to breathe. You don't want to cuff your chest. The height on it, try to find a height where your back is in a position like this, nice and smooth, not too flat. You also don't want to get too low where at the top of your pedal stroke, your knee is going to start hitting your torso or your stomach. You don't want to impinge that hip angle. So in the wind tunnel, I've done stuff where I'll be down really low like this. A lot more aerodynamic, right? A lot more aerodynamic and less wind resistance, but my hip angle gets really closed. My legs will hit my chest a little bit, closing that off. I'll be a little bit faster, but it's harder to recruit power. If your hip angle is too closed, you lose a lot of power. So have that hip angle open. You can recruit, be more efficient, have more power. And the aerodynamics does matter, but some simple tips that you can do for aerodynamics while you're racing is always keeping your head down, tucked down and forward. You don't want to be like this. Your head creates a huge amount of drag. Your head is one of the massive parts of drag in a time trial position. So you don't want to be looking up like this and riding, not even like this. You want to get down as low as you can and look up with your eyes. So head down, you scrunch your shoulders a little bit, and you get down like that, and you're looking where you can see maybe 15 or 20 feet in front of you, looking at the very tops of your eyes and your brows. If you have sunglasses on, it's looking right at the rim of your sunglasses. The more wind you feel, if the wind's blowing in your face, it's more critical time to be in that position. So aerodynamics you can do by just body position with your head, making sure your bottles are in a good place. The obvious and most easiest way to improve your aerodynamics is selecting a really good bike. This bike that I have, the Trek Speed Concept, is the fastest bike that's on the market, most aerodynamic bike. It's like free time. I find it's like cheating a little bit. It's extremely fast in almost every condition. So that is your basic bike fit. Again, this is just a basic bike fit to get you going, to get you out on the road in a good, comfortable position. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or feedback, please email us. Let us know how we can improve and get more information to you. But that was your simple bike fit to get you out on the road to have success. And good luck out there.